I often think about how our practice is our refuge. I hope you feel this way. I hope you feel that your practice is a refuge for you, and that when times are challenging, or even when times are not challenging, that you come onto your mat and it's this place of deep peace and support for you. And it doesn't matter what you do on your mat. It doesn't matter how long you stay on your mat. It doesn't matter which poses you choose to move through. It's just this sense of coming home to yourself that is really the gift of our practice. And we're all trying to, be our best selves and kind of show up in the world in the best way we know how. And the world needs us right now. So in order to, put that oxygen mask on yourself first before another, we need to have things like our practice that are times where we bring ourselves home to ourselves, care for ourselves, so that when we go out and do the work that we're doing in the world and be in relationship, that we have capacity. So I wanted to read you, this is the Bodhisattva's prayer for humanity. It was written by Shanti Devi, 700 AD. He is the author of the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And he was a monk that lived a long time ago. So close your eyes and sit up straight and tall. Now, before I say the prayer, I'm prefacing it with no pressure, because sometimes we have these prayers that bring us to try to cultivate our highest selves, and it can be a lot to live up to. So that this is just our goal, right? This is just our goal, to be in this space. So as you sit up straight and tall, take a moment to drop into the breath. Come into yourself. Let the day kind of be out there, and you're here inside of you. So the Bodhisattva's prayer for humanity. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. It doesn't matter if you show up in that way for your plant, your house plant, for your pet, for your neighbor, for your children, for your partner, for your family, for your friends, for your community, for the stranger you meet, for the world. It doesn't matter who you show up for, but can you take care of yourself enough to be the lamp in the darkness, to be the bridge, to be a tree of miracles? And we all know the feeling of being depleted and kind of losing that capacity. So my hope for you is that your yoga practice not only cultivates capacity, nurturance, but also teaches us a sense of awareness when our lamp is a little dim, when we need more retreat, when we need more rest, so that we can choose our path on any given day, depending on what our needs are. So place your hands together at your heart and bow into your practice today. What do you need? Can you set an intention? All right, and then Let's release the hands. And come onto your back to start our practice. All right, so as you lie down, enjoy what your body feels like in this moment. Okay, so maybe it's been a while since you've been horizontal. Maybe you got up many hours ago. Maybe you are just kind of starting your morning. So whatever it is that you've got going on, let's just sense the feeling of spreading your limbs out, getting some space in your body. You can stretch your arms overhead, maybe reach your arms and feel that, morning stretch, that sense of awakening, invigorating the spine and the body. Feel free to pandiculate a little bit. And all I mean by that is kind of like squeeze and release anywhere in your body that helps you find that nervous system brightening, bringing some energy, some blood flow to different areas of your body. All right, and then let's all come into bringing the knees into the chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Feel into your low back, let there be some ease, drop into the earth. And then let's circle the knees. When you do this, check in with the pelvis, see how the sacrum is. Go the other way. Part of this beautiful practice is the paying attention that we do, the taking the time to pay attention to how the body and mind feel. Open up your knees away from the midline and then bring them toward the midlines, just feeling the hip joints move a little bit. And then right knee into the chest, and your left foot comes down on the floor. And go ahead and move your feet around. Compress in your knee, compress in your hip. Feel that deep squeeze. Feel the length of your spine and find your breath again. Notice if your head has this desire to pick up. See if you can rest your head down. And then switch sides. Left knee into the chest, the right leg comes along on the floor, and feel your ankles spin around here. Wiggle your toes, just feel into your feet. And find the same. Left knee compressing in, left hip compressing. Feel that sense of squeeze. And then open that up and spread your limbs wide. Starfish your body out. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And then exhale and bring your knees into the chest. The head comes up. All right, a couple more times. Open up the rims of the body. Spread out your limbs. Exhale and tuck into a little ball. Find that condensement back to center. And one more time. Get expansive, like you're like a fern that's uncurling. And then be the fern that is curling. Back in. Relax your head down onto the ground. Put your feet onto the ground. Open up your hands on the floor so that your palms are facing the sky. Take a breath here. Ground through your 2 feet and feel the 2 sides of your pelvis. Let's just wake up the core a little bit. Imagine a teacup on your left knee so that you're grounding the knee into the pelvis. Open up the right knee out to the side. Try not to take this in your neck. See if you can really isolate the stability into the core and pelvis. Lift the knee up, put the teacup on your right knee, and open the left knee out to the side. And bring that back in. So just kind of feeling into that deeper core musculature. We're still breathing. Try to relax the head. Relax the base of the skull, even relax the arms. Notice how your whole body can kind of tense to try to stabilize your pelvis and core, and see if you can let go of some of that and let the job be just where it needs to be. So we're opening up one knee, coming back, stabilizing, and then opening up the other knee. You can do this at your own pace. So I like to go slow because I like the way it feels. I catch more sensation when I move slowly. If I move quickly, I kind of do it, but I'm not even sure how I'm doing it, what I'm doing. So slowing down helps me figure out, oh, that's what's happening in my body. So just see your pace and then relax that when you're ready, go ahead and 2 feet come back onto the ground. And we're just going to do some pelvic tilting. So inhale, anterior tilt the pelvis, sit bones wide, top of the sacrum lifts off the floor, tailbone dips down, and then other direction, posterior tilt, sit bones move toward each other, tailbone lifts toward the sky, back, low back kind of moves into the floor. And just go back and forth, moving through the pelvic floor. So we're just finding that sense of freedom in the pelvis, that it's responsive, we can have engagement and release, that we're not stuck in one position. All right, and then neutralize the pelvis. Feet are flat and rooting into the earth with all 4 pointers. And we're going to inhale to lift up into a bridge. So we're still, our upper body's still fairly relaxed. And then we're going to exhale and lower our pelvis down. So try to pay attention. We're going to do opposite sides, and then we're going to try to come into symmetry. So lift your right hip faster than your left, and then lift the left hip to match, and then drop your right hip faster than your left, and then follow with your left hip. Do that one more time. Right hip lifts a little faster than the left, and then right hip drops down a little faster than the left. Let's try that one more time before we go the opposite direction. So right hip up, join with the left, right hip down, join with the left. All right, and then neutralize the pelvis. Let's erase that pattern by lifting 2 sides simultaneously, pelvis up. And then lower pelvis down. Now we're going to go the opposite direction. So left hip lifts higher, faster, right hip joins, left hip drops down, and then the right hip drops down. Okay, left hip up, and then follow with the right. Left hip drops down, follow with the right. One more time. How's your breath, by the way? Now, which pattern feels more familiar to you? You know, we all tend to have a sense of our pelvis liking to move in certain pathways. And this, you know, so just shake. You can windshield wiper your knees left and right. This can show up in, you know, what step do you always take, which foot do you always take the step first when you're going up or down the step? If you're jumping in a creek bed from rock to rock, which is your favorite stable leg to jump off of or jump onto? If you're, you know, having to balance on one foot, do you have preference? So just start to know the patterns of your body. Now we're going to ground your 2 feet, all 4 corners, big toes, pinky toes, inner outer heel. Spread your toes apart. Imagine an imaginary block between your thighs. Try to lift your hips up evenly. And then rock onto the tops of the shoulders, so a more full bridge pose. Backs of the hands move, and backs of the arms move into the earth. Keep the neck relaxed. Don't smush the neck into the ground. Keep the back of the head a little firmness there, so the neck is soft. Lift the heart toward the chin, but try not to push the chin down toward the chest. The neck is relaxed. Hug into that imaginary block between your thighs. All 4 points of your feet are grounding. Try to push your feet away from your shoulders and feel your quads turn on. And now try to pull your feet toward your shoulders and feel your glutes and your hamstrings turn on. Hug your feet toward each other and feel your inner thighs turn on. And then hug your feet away from each other and feel your outer hips turn on. Now see if you can ground all 4 corners of the feet and recruit all those muscles, quads, inner thighs, hamstrings, glutes, outer hips. Big belly breath. Melt your way back down onto the ground. Windshield wiper your knees left and right. So it's, you know, not always so common that we start our practice with the back bend. So just notice your spine. And then one more time, stretching your limbs wide out on the floor. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, and then exhale, curl your fern in, round the back a little bit. And then roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So as we come onto all fours, let's try to move some of that energy from the hips and legs up through the spine now. So moving through a cat-cow. Feeling that sense of mobility in your shoulder blades, in your vertebrae. All right, and then we're going to move the hips around here. So feel free to wag your tail. Feel free to circle the hips. Just let some freedom move through the pelvis. All right, and then we're going to find our way into a variety. There are two different forms of child's pose. So take your knees where you like them. We're going to first anterior tilt the pelvis. So sit bones high and wide. Come back into that deep compression in the hip joints. Feel the freedom in your lumbar spine. And then rise back up. Tuck the tail, which I hardly ever say to do. And come back and feel the extension in the posterior portion of your lumbar spine. Come back up, anterior tilt. Feel the deep compression in the hip joints. Freedom in the back. And come back up one more time. Posterior tilt of the pelvis. And come back to child's pose. Come up onto all fours. Swirl that spine around. Let's find dog pose when you're ready. Toes under, lift on up. Spread out the bones of your feet. Okay. Pedal out your feet, so wake the feet up so you can drop one heel down, bend the opposite knee. Feel the sole of the foot, open up the Achilles, back of the leg. Just enjoy. This can be a quicker movement, a slower movement. Remember, our goal here is to be embodied, to just find the refuge of ourselves. So when your head drops down, is that a little easier? Feel the brain. Rest along the skull bones. Let it just rest. See if you can just drop a little bit of the tension in the skull. Feel the heart stretch up toward the feet. Hug your hands toward the midline so you're using more muscles than just your shoulders. Keep relaxing your neck. Deep breaths. Enjoy this posture. All right, come back down onto all fours. Walk your hands forward and come to puppy pose. So the hips stay high. We're not dropping down toward our heels. Bring the torso toward the floor. Lift under the armpits a little bit so you're not collapsed. Feel the thoracic spine open up a little bit. Okay, and then walk the hands back and come to child's pose. Walk the hands over to one side of the mat and open up that rib cage. Feel the sense of space. Relax the base of the skull. Feel the ribs open. Come back to the other side. Walking over to the other side. Feel the rib cage open. Relax the base of the skull. Hips drop toward heels. All right, come back up onto all fours. Dog pose again. Extending through the spine here. Feel the reach. And then when you're ready, walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees as deep as you want. Feel free to move your shoulders, wag your tail, move your head, loosen things up. And then inhale for a halfway lift. The legs get longer, the spine gets longer. And then exhale and melt. Drop your hips down, rise up, coming to stand. Bring your arms up in the air if that feels good to you. Remember always that you can modify anything in your practice for your body, whatever's you're needing today. So if there's a vector of movement that doesn't feel good, make a different path. Open the chest, spread open your wings, and then press your arms straight out to the sides. Drop your shoulders. Let's do a couple little shoulder circles here. So arms are circling, just waking up some nerves in your arms. And then flips the palms down. Palms are out toward the wall behind you. Fingertips are pointing down. Circle the other direction. And then arms straight back up. Take a deep breath. Exhale and fold forward. Shake your tail, shake your head. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine gets taller and longer, thigh bones back. Exhale and melt again. Relax your neck, soften. Let's step the left foot back. The right foot's coming forward to a lunge. Find the open heart. Place your hands on blocks if you want them. And then start to open up the legs a bit. Find your breath. Straighten your front leg. Bend your front leg. Find the breath as you move through this. Breathing well. All right. Extend open. Find yourself. Lift up to crescent lunge. However you're ready to get there. Your arms can go anywhere that supports you. Keep the chest broad and free. Stabilize through your legs. Can you feel the yielding? Can you drop down to rise up? Okay. And then when you're ready, interlace your fingers behind you. Open the chest a little bit. Try really hard not to smush your lumbar spine. Rise up. Think more up than more back. So we're not sinking. If anything, undo the bend in your knee a little bit so that you have the sense of rising upward. Stretch your hands down. Open the collarbones. And then release your arms. Stretch them out in front of you if you're comfortable. Lower your torso. If not, bring your arms back or out to the sides. Find your breath. Hands come down. Back foot comes forward. Fold in half. Halfway lift. Extend the heart open. Exhale and melt again. Step your other foot back. Now our left foot is forward. Back and forth. Moving. Breathing. Okay, come into yourself. There's no goals, there's no destinations. It's only the process of feeling, being present for, seeing if you can feel the lines of energy move through your body, lines of force in your body. Connect to the earth. Okay, when you're ready, find your feet grounding. Feel your support below you, and then rise up. The most important thing we can cultivate here is a sense of breathing, a sense of ease, a sense of stability. Relax the base of the skull. What can soften? What does not have to work in your body right now that is working? What might need to turn on to support you? Maybe press your front heel into the ground. Make sure your glutes are working. Find the breath. And when you're ready, interlace your hands the other way. Now, if you can't reach, that's okay. Just stretch your hands back. Just wake up the back of the body a little bit. Try not to smush the lumbar spine. We're rising up through the crown. You can lean forward a little bit if you feel like your low back is getting compressed. Hug to the midline with your legs. And then release the arms. Stretch them out in front of you as your torso lowers down, or if that's not good for your shoulders or your back, bring your arms back or out to the sides. This is a long lever for your spine, so use your body accordingly, wisely. All right, hands down onto the ground, dog pose. Take your feet wide on the mat, turn your toes in, feel the space this creates. Lift the pelvis, or lift the femur bones into your pelvis. Take the thigh bones back. Find your breath. Let's come forward with those nice wide legs. Come forward into a plank. So our feet are very wide on the mat. You can always put your knees down on the ground if your body needs more support. Shoulders are away from the ears. Hug to the midline. Breathing well. Walk your feet in so they're more neutral. Turn your navel to the left. Come back to center. Turn your navel to the right. Remember those bridge lifts that we did that were asymmetrical? See if you can sense what's here when we do asymmetry here. One more time, turning to the left with your belly button. Chest faces the floor. Back to center. Other side. Come back to center. Put your knees down first if you need to, and find your way to the ground. Enjoy the belly on the floor, the chest on the floor. See if you can feel the breath move through the back of the body. Roll the shoulders down. Inhale, rise up, cobra pose. Elbows stay bent. Elbows down, shoulders down. Open the chest. Exhale and melt back down again. One more time. Stretch into the legs. Open things up. And then rest and melt. Okay. Come on up onto all fours when you're ready. You can move your spine around, just loosen things up, however feels right to you. We're going to come up to stand. So if you need to skip some dog poses in your practice because of your shoulders, this is how to skip, right? So we're coming up. So you can either come into dog pose and lift the right leg up in the air and bring it through to a lunge, or you can just skip all that and come on up to stand. Find your crescent lunge one more time. Find your breath. Then we're going to turn and open up to the side. Okay. Virasana, bend your knee, place the elbow on your knee, and open your chest. Where do you want that arm to go? Do you want it up in the air? Does that feel good? Or do you rather have it out to the side or down? Find the pathway in your body. Enjoy all the space you're creating. Keep moving that back leg. The thigh bone moves back. Open up across your shoulders. Shoulders move down away from the ears. Can you ground both feet evenly? Feel the earth. Relax your neck. All right, come back up. We're going to just do some pivoting today, left and right with these poses. So turn your foot the other direction. Virasana. We'll get back to the lunge before we finish, so don't worry, I won't forget. Bring your elbow back down onto your knee, or if you prefer, you can use a hand on a block, either in the front of your shin or behind your shin, whichever feels nice to you. Shoulders away from the ears. If you tend to be a shoulder creeper upper toward your head with that underarm, with the left arm, try putting your hand on a block. Sometimes that can be helpful to keep active, keeping your shoulder blades down the back. Choose that arm wherever you want it to be. Open up the chest. Remember, the hips can turn a little bit. We want to stay open, but not to the place where we have tension in our SI joints. So ground through both feet. Can you feel the lines of force through your legs? How's your breath? Melt the base of your skull. What feels nice about this posture? Are you embodied everywhere? Travel through your body and find a place that's a little quiet and light it up. Okay, and then come back up. 2 feet turned out. Okay, come into a guard squat. Now we can be high like this. We do not have to be super low. So just be where your body is comfortable. And we're going to lift up through one arm. And then we're going to lift up through the other arm. So try to keep the pelvis really quiet wherever you ended up in your squat. And we're just using the obliques to find that sense of reach. And another sense of reach. Balance through the hips. All right, and then find a balance, 2 sides out. Feel that grounding. Turn your toes out, heels in, so you have that like spinning, like your feet are jar lids that you're trying to open. Symmetry across your pelvis. Okay, and then rise up, starfish your body, palms coming to the heart. Breathe well. We're going to go back and forth between your left and right sides now. So you decide how deep you want to go. Okay. And you can move your arms in any way, any trajectory that feels perfectly wonderful to you. Okay. So you can go low. You can even drop your head and go really low with your torso. You can be middle range. You can let shoulders be slithery. You can kind of do what we just did a moment ago and stretch your arms over. So just find the path that works for you right now. All right, and then come to a very low version of this. Elbows inside the knees. You can adjust your feet. Squat down, feel the ground. You're low. And then rise up again. Starfish your body out. Find your breath. Palms coming to the center. Relax the shoulders down. We're going to turn and come into triangle pose on this side. So turning to the right. If you like blocks, come into the posture with a block. Okay, so when we hang out in a pose, and if you get a hip cramp like I just did, you can just relax it for a moment. But when we stay in a posture for a while, try not to get stagnant. Feel the inner movement, the flow of breath, the subtleties of yielding and releasing into the earth, and then finding that energy rise through you. The sense of expanding from your center to your limbs and back. All right, rise up. Turn your feet. Come to the other side. Remember, triangle pose, we're tipping the pelvis. We're not trying to keep the pelvis balanced left and right. One is lower than the other. See if you can tip a little bit, like tipping a teapot. Ground into your feet. When you yield into the earth and rebound through your body, what happens? Where do you sense a sense of space or vitality or growth in your body when you yield into the earth and push off? How is your breath helping you in this posture? Feel your breath. Where does the breath go? Where does it get stuck? Do you have that sense of radiating from your center to your edges, your 6 limbs, hands, feet, crown, tail? All right, and then come back up. Feet are turned out in balance. Bring your hands out to the sides. When you're ready, drop one more time into a goddess. But our hands are out. Put a little weight in your hands. Drop the shoulders. It doesn't matter how deep you go in this pose. Just go where your body is self-supporting, where your joints are happy, where you have balance between left and right sides. Toes turn out. Scrub them on the floor. Heels a little turning forward so they have those jar lids spinning. How's your breath? Relax your neck and shoulders. And then rise up. Last of the standing poses in this sequence that we'll do. Bend your knee. Come into Virasana. Drop the shoulders. Feel the proud warrior, that lift of the heart. Try not to lift the heart at the expense of losing your yield. So drop in to rise up. Soft shoulders. Feel the heart stretch to the fingertips. Feel the pelvis drop into the feet. Can you feel all 6 limbs stretching away? Crown, tail, hands, feet. And return them home again. Okay, straighten that leg. Relax the arms down. Pause in the center. Balance. Turn your feet the other direction. Virasana 2. Maybe you have a different vector of movement with your arms. Maybe your pelvis needs to turn a lot. Maybe your knee needs to not bend very much. Find the pathway that's right for this moment. Once you get to the place where you're like, I think I can support myself here, radiate from your center out to your limbs. Feel yourself come back home to that center. kind of like you're pulsing out and in like the breath. When you pulse out, can you feel the earth? Can you give to it? Can you receive it? How's the breath? Can you relax your neck and shoulders? All right, let's come back up. Turn back, 2 feet parallel. Walk your feet in. So come toward the center and pause. Enjoy your legs being a little closer. You can bounce a little bit if it feels nice. Breathe in. Breathe out. Left foot is stepping forward, right foot is back. Whoa, don't fall. Find your way into a lunge. Reach the arms up to the sky, and then hands coming down to the ground. Dog pose. All right, check in with your back. Bend your knees. Feel a sense of ease across your spine. Stay grounded through the index fingers. Okay, let's round the spine forward and come into a plank, and then straighten your spine out. Lose that rounded. And as you're ready, put your knees down onto the ground. And let's practice those anterior and posterior tilts in child's pose. So come back, anterior tilt, deep compression in the hips, soft back. Inhale, come back up onto all fours, round the spine, tuck the tail, hug back to child's pose this way. One more time, each direction. Sit bones high and wide. Can you feel how this is more gentle on the spine? And then come on up, round the spine a little bit. Only go as far as your body. This is a little bit more pressure on the back, so make sure your body can handle that. All right, and then come onto all fours. Swish your hips, let them move. And we're going to come to sit in Virasana. So grab a block if you need it. Sit on a block or two in between your feet. And then, Virasana, I don't teach it very often. It's hard online because I can't see you all. But I want you to make sure your knees and your ankles are feeling happy. There's so many ways to modify this. You can come higher on 2 blocks. If the front of your ankles don't feel good, you can put a little towel or something underneath the front of your ankles so they don't have to go into so much extension. Sometimes I just put my hands there too. And just let your legs compress for a moment. If this is a very uncomfortable pose for you, make a different choice. So either try to climb up higher, or if that still's not working for your knees, you can just come out and make a different choice. You want your feet close to your hips, not turned out. Extend upward through your spine. This is a pleasure for me right now, having broken my foot, and I can finally start to do this pose a little bit. It feels, when I think about the times when you've been injured and you can't do something, and then you come around to it eventually, and just this new sense. Do you know that feeling of, wow, I haven't felt this sensation in my body in a while. This is one of the beauties of embodiment, is when we can surprise ourselves with a new sensation. Virasana is great after standing poses to compress the energy in your legs a bit. Okay, let's come out of there. Hands down, curl the toes under, lift to dog pose. Extend through the spine. And then walk your feet forward. We're going to put a block between our thighs. When we do a sequence with a block between our thighs, it helps us to stabilize through the pelvis. So if you do have, kind of like one hip that turns forward, if you found a pattern earlier when we were lying on our back doing Bridge pose lifts. If you found one pattern of lift a lot easier and more familiar, then chances are that hip likes to move forward. So just notice that now with the block, see if you can find balance. And let's move into your version of a chair pose. So remember, I have the block at the skinniest height. Some people like it lower toward their knees, middle height. So experiment with where you're most comfortable with support between your legs. And your arms can come back, your arms can come out, your arms can come up, your palms can be together. What feels good in your body? Drop into your heels. Weight yourself. So enjoy your quads. Notice your back. You should have a very neutral curve right now in your lumbar spine. So if you can't do that, make a different offering with your hands to support your back better. Shoulders are relaxed. All right, rise up. Did you notice that one leg is squeezing the block more than the other? See if you can find symmetry. Bend your knees and float forward. Uttanasana. Gently hug the block. Even effort between your two sides. Take the hands onto the ground. Walk back to dog pose, still with block between thighs. Sit bones high and wide. Gentle hug. Find the breath. Okay, we're going to come forward into a plank. Your knees can bend a little bit if you need that. Find what's right for your body. Gently hug the block. Try not to squeeze where the block's going to come down toward the floor. Squeeze so the block goes up toward the sky just a little bit. And it's gentle. Okay, and then back to dog pose. Bend your knees. Feel that block support you. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana again. Last time through a chair pose, squat. Finding breath. Even weight in the hips, even weight in the legs. Do you have, tendency? Do you drop into one leg more than the other? Try to find balance. And then rise all the way up. Arms to the sky. Place the hands down on the ground. Now to feel your core turn on, your pelvic floor turn on in just a little bit different way, put the block between your shins. All right, same process, arms up, chair pose. So you can always, if your knees are destabilized at all, you can always have another block between your thighs to help with this. Breathing well. Everybody's width is different. I like the middle width of a block. You might like the wider, just experiment. What feels good? Okay, stand up, fold forward, bend your knees. Now, it's hard to get back there, so just waddle your feet back, adjust the block if you need to, dog pose. Can you feel a sense of your pelvic floor turning on, supporting you? Is your breath able to move? Come forward into a plank. Hold yourself steady. See if you can light up the pelvic floor with the block. Put your knees down onto the ground. Block is still between your calves. Hug in. Feel that sense of support on the pelvic floor. Take a deep breath in. Let your ribs broaden. As you exhale, blow out some candles with your mouth. Inhale, ribs expand. Exhale, hug the block. Blow out some candles. One more time. Ribs expand. Block and candles. All right, so let's come all the way down to the ground. Stay with the block between your thighs. Stabilize a little bit. Hug in. See if you can feel your pelvis stabilize. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, and relax. Moving back through onto all fours. Ribs broad, hug the block, blow out some candles, pelvic floor engaged, deep core engaged. Come on up to dog pose. Relax your neck. Waddle your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Inhale and rise all the way up. Okay. Maybe the arms come to the sky, maybe they don't. All right, and then let's remove the props and just stand in Tadasana. Bend your knees. Do you have a sense that your pelvic floor and your deeper core muscles are there to help stabilize you in your posture? Do you have a little less tendency to just kind of lean into a hip or push the pelvis forward? Do you have ease in your lumbar spine because your pelvic floor and your core is just slightly turned on? It doesn't have to be big. Ground into the feet. Feel the yielding. Okay, rise up. Float forward. Come onto the ground. Come onto your back. Last thing we'll do with the block. Okay, take the block between your knees, between your thighs, wherever in your legs you want it to be, at whatever width you want it to be. Okay, inhale. We're going to try, so unlike we did earlier where we're trying to find that pattern of which hip likes to rise, if you noticed a pattern, if you have a hip that kicks in faster, see if you can recruit the opposite psoas muscle before we even begin. So recruit the side that is a little laggy and then lift two sides simultaneously. Rise up, open the breath, hang out here, get onto the tops of the shoulders a bit, relax your neck, press the triceps, the forearms, the backs of the hands into the earth. Balance across the pelvis. A gentle hug of the floor, let it turn on the pelvic floor. All right, and then relax. Breathe well for a moment. All right, now try to adjust the block so it's between your calves. It's a little trickier when you're in this position than when we're standing, so just do your best. Feet are hopefully hip width apart. I know it's not one size, it is one size fits all with the block, so we aren't all one size fits all, so it may not be perfect. Rise up. You can also try this, if not between the shins, even just between your feet. Ground into four corners. Find your breath. Notice if your pelvis likes to lift one hip higher. Find symmetry as best as you can. Turn on the side that's quieter. All right, and then melt. Let go of the block. No more blocks. Bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. All right, soles of the feet together, knees out, we are going to use blocks, but not between our thighs. Grab your two blocks and rest them underneath your knees for a moment. Supta Baddha Konasana with your back on the floor. We're not going to be here too long. But just have a moment of letting your pelvis relax. So if you did have a tendency of one side to kind of be a leader, one side to be a follower, see if you can let your leader hip drop into the earth. Feel the pelvic floor relax. Feel the breath travel low in the pelvis. Are you a little more aware of your low pelvic, your low belly, your hips, your pelvis? How about in the back side of you? Can you feel your sacrum evenly on the floor, or do you tend to have a tip leaning one side or the other? Relax the base of your skull. Relax the back of your head into the earth. Melt the shoulders. So much room for breathing. Let your breath come. Are you embodied? Are you here in your body? Can you surrender into the gravity that's supporting you? Can you surrender into the earth that's supporting you? Now imagine gravity was a little bit more, like a little stronger force of dropping you, and just let that feel like a weighted, don't let it feel like stress, let it feel like a weighted blanket. Even the head has a little more heaviness. Now remove that weighted blanket and feel so light, like you could float. All right, bend the knees, stretch your body on the floor. Not Shavasana yet, almost not yet. Stretch your arms overhead, lengthen just like we do in the beginning, and then bring your knees into your chest. Rock around a little bit. Now you get to decide a variation of a hip stretch. You can cross your right thigh over your left thigh and bring your knees toward your chest, and that will stretch your right hip. Or you can put your right foot on your left knee and grab behind your left thigh or the front of your left shin and come into reverse pigeon pose. So both are wonderful postures. Maybe choose a pathway that you breathe best in, or a pathway that makes your joint feel most relaxed. So, or maybe just choose one you never do. If you always do reverse pigeon pose, maybe try thigh over thigh. So it doesn't matter why or how you're choosing, make a choice. Relax the skull, relax the jaw, the tongue. Start to feel into that Shavasana kind of feeling. How's your breath? Okay, in between the two sides, stretch out like a starfish. Okay, and then we're going to cross the other way. So either left thigh over right thigh or left foot on right knee. Choose a pathway that's best for your body. Are you able to relax? What's tense in your body that can surrender and let go? And then one more spreading out. We're going to roll over onto our right side, bend your knees, support under your head with your right arm, grab onto your left front of your foot with your left hand, and stretch your knee away. So a quad stretch, so stretch your knee away from your chest, tailbone stretches toward that knee as well, pubic bone lifts toward the belly button. And then put the knees back together, palms are together, open up to a twist. Deep breath, turn the head. come back with the arms. Swing your whole torso and your whole body over to the left. Bend your knees, support underneath your head with your left arm. Bring your right knee toward your chest. Put your right hand on the front of your right ankle, and then stretch that knee away for a quad stretch. So the knee stretches toward the edge of your mat, away from your shoulder. The pubic bone lifts toward the belly button. The sit bones, the tailbone, move toward the knee in the air, toward the right knee. Find your breath. Relax your neck and shoulders. And then place your knees together. Hands are together right out from your shoulders, and then come opening into a twist. Turn your head if it feels good. Relax. All right, come back and then roll over onto your back. And you can bring your knees to your chest or a happy baby pose or nothing at all. And just find Shavasana. And maybe your Shavasana is different today. Maybe you'd like to put your legs up a wall or your calves on a couch or a chair. Maybe a bolster under your knees. Maybe nothing and you just want to sprawl out on the floor. So find what's going to give you most ease. And then relax your neck. Once you get to a place where your body's happy, relax your neck. Relax your belly. Melt your limbs on the floor. Soften the eyes, the jaw. Breathing deeply. The refuge, your practice as refuge. Let's begin to deepen our breathing again. Find one last moment of drop. Feel your body be supported and let it go, including your head. And eventually find some movement, whatever serves you best. Eventually finding your side and coming up to sit again. As we send forth our energy, like we always do at the end of class, I'll read this prayer one more time. So hold in your heart whoever it is that you would like to share your energy with today. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Blessings on your day.